What's up guys, welcome back to another fantasy football video. For this one I'm going to be taking us through my predictions for the group stages and knockout stages. I'm going to give you my reasons for why I think I'm going to place the teams in the positions that I do. And yeah, trying to give some good reasoning behind it, but also maybe keep in mind that football is unpredictable and that's the joy of it. So I'm not expecting all my predictions to go well, but if I can score decently on it, I'll be happy. So let's get stuck into it. So for Group A, I think Group A is pretty straightforward for first place. I think that Italy will comfortably finish first. I think a lot of people have them to finish first and they're their favourite. But for good reason. They're a very, very good defensive team. I have a lot of faith in their manager, Mancini. They've got a really well-rounded squad, and to think that they didn't even qualify for the World Cup, now they are where they are in the unbeaten run that they've gone on. I think they're very comfortably going to finish first. The other three spots are quite difficult because I think all three teams are slightly unpredictable. I do think Turkey have a lot of talent and they have been on a really good run of form, but they could also remind me a bit of Austria in the 2018 World Cup, where everyone was hyping them up and everyone's really, saying they're the underdog, they're going to do really well, they've got so much talent in the squad, got good form players, and then they just kind of flop and finish last place. That's something I just have a feeling that they might do. I don't know what it is, but at the same time, I do think defense wins tournaments and it gets you through the group stage as well. So I think for that reason, I'm not going to put them second, but I am going to put them third. I do think they'll do okay, but I'm not as hyped for them as I was at the beginning when I first sort of was doing research into the teams for this Euros. In second place, I'm going to go for Switzerland. I think they're a very, very, very solid defensive side. They're just a difficult team to beat. I think that they'll just do well. I mean, they've got a pretty solid squad. They've not really changed much from the previous years, but I just have a feeling they'll do pretty well. And then obviously in last spot, it's going to be Wales. I do think Wales could surprise people, but I'm just going with what I think is the most likely. I don't think they'll score enough goals. I don't think compared to the other three teams that they'll can get too many results from that. They do have the star player in Gareth Bale, and he can pretty much carry them. I mean, he pretty much carried them in the Euros in 2016, but I just think this time around, I don't think they're going to do it. Group B, I think is pretty easy to predict. I think Belgium comfortably finishing number one. They've just got a lot of talent. I mean, they're just easily the best team in that group, and yeah, they've got experience in the players as well, and Courtois, Alderweireld, Vertonghen. I just see them doing well. I mean, they're the favourites anyway, so it makes sense to put them at number one. Second place, I'm going for Denmark. I think they're a really, really solid defensive side. They're just a really difficult team to beat, and I do even think they may even give Belgium a run for their money. So yeah, definitely going to put them at second. Third place, I'm going for Russia. Yeah, they're a bit of a difficult one to predict, Russia. They kind of surprised a lot of people in the World Cup. Perhaps it made a difference that they were playing at home. But I don't think they're gonna get results against Denmark and Belgium. But I do think they're better than Finland, so for that reason I put them at third. And obviously in last place we've got Finland. They could surprise people again. You never know in football, but I'm just going with odds, and I think that Finland, they need to score goals, and I don't think they're going to keep goals out of their own net. So for that reason, I'm putting them as last. Group C is a really difficult one to predict. I think it's definitely a difficult group to predict because Netherlands are the favourites, but I just don't have that much faith in their manager, and I don't really trust the bookies on this one. I don't know what it is, but I think managers make a huge difference to their team, and despite how talented their squad are, I don't think they're gonna top the group. Obviously, I think North Macedonia are favourites to finish last, but I do think they'll pull something out of the bag. So I'm actually going to go with North Macedonia as third. I think that they won't finish last. They may surprise a few people, and because usually when a tournament means a lot to a team if it's their first time qualifying, they just seem to want it more, and it does make a difference. So I'm going to put them as third. I'm going to put Austria as last, just because I don't know. Maybe it's the bias from the 2008 World Cup, whereby they kind of like disappointed me a lot because everyone was hyping them up so much, saying, "Oh, they've got such a good team, so much talent," and then they're just disappointed. So maybe I'm still kind of reeling from that. They do have a talented squad still, but I don't know what it is. I mean, the fans don't seem that encouraging about the manager, and they just don't seem that. Yeah, they just don't seem like that good of a team. I'm going to put Ukraine as number one. I think that Ukraine may shock a few people. They have a really good all-round team. I do think they can score goals, and they are a pretty defensively good team as well. They have been a bit up and down in the friendlies, but I do think defense makes a big difference, and for some reason, they just seem to be a pretty good solid side, in terms of not letting goals in. And as well as that, I really do value their manager, Shevchenko. I think he's a really, really good manager. He's done wonders for Ukraine. I mean, which is kind of odd because not all the time good players make good managers, but in this case, it seems that he's really turned it around for them. So I do think they could do well in this tournament. So for that reason, I'm going to put them at number one. Netherlands, I'm putting at number two. Despite the manager and the things I've said about Frank de Boer, I think that they do have enough talent to definitely at least finish in second place. I think that Depay will pretty much carry their team. They have got Wijnaldum, who's also been in pretty good form for them. So I do think that they'll do okay. So I'll put them at number two. Group D, I think again is a difficult one to predict, but I'm going to go with England as number one. It may be the bias in me, but I also think the odds are in their favour. They've got so much attacking talent; it's ridiculous. I mean, they've just got so much power up front. I do think defense makes a bit more of a difference in tournaments, and they are lacking in that area with Harry Maguire injured. But I do think Ben White can step up, and I do think they have enough in their defensive midfield to make up for what they lack in their centre backs, perhaps. So I'm still going to put them under one because I think they will score goals, and they don't have the hardest group. But having said that, choosing between these next three teams is very, very difficult. Because I do think Scotland will surprise quite a few people. I'm so tempted to put them as second, but I don't know if they will finish second. I just have a feeling they've got a good squad. I just have a feeling they'll. You know what? I'm going to put them as second just because I have a feeling they'll do well. It's just something that tells me that they will. I don't know what it is. I just have a feeling they'll show up. They have some star players like John McGinn, Andy Robertson, Tierney. I do think they'll show up in this game, in this group. So I'm going to put them as second. It might be biased, but I do think they'll show up. Croatia, I'm putting as third. I really don't rate Croatia that much because I think their squad has aged quite a bit. Now, experience can be good, but you need some star talent in there. There's nothing that really stands out. They're just a bit of an average team to me. So I'm going to put them third because I don't think they'll finish last. But I just don't see them standing out in this tournament, even despite them making the finals in the World Cup. I just don't see them standing out that much. I mean, I could be wrong, but we'll see. For now, I'm putting them in third place. Final place, I'm going to put as Czech. Again, I think I'm not too confident in these picks because I think it could those last three places, 2, 3, and 4, they could easily switch around. And Czech do have a really good team. They've got Thomas Sucic, who's a really, really good player, and but at the same time, I can't really think of anyone else in that team that really stands out. So for that reason, I'm going to put them last. But I wouldn't be surprised if they finish higher up. With Group E, I'm easily going to go with Spain for number one. Despite what's been said about their squad and coronavirus, I do think they've got easily enough talent and they've got kind of a lot of fresh players compared to their 2016 and 2018 squads. And I do think that's going to make a huge difference. They've got a lot of young talent coming through. I think they've got a good manager in Luis Enrique. So I do think they'll top their group. In second place, I'm going for Sweden. I think that Sweden are an all-round solid side. Defense makes all the difference, and I do think that Sweden are defensively a good side. They just seem to just turn up in a lot of tournaments. Tends to be round of 16 at the minimum. So I just have a feeling that if they're going to make round of 16, they're going to at least finish second. So I'm going to put them as number two. Poland, I'm going to put as number three. Not because I think they're a great team. I mean, they do have Lewandowski, who's a great, great player, and they may have a decent experience in their squad. But I'm going to put them at third because I don't think they're anything special. But I do think they are better than Slovakia, and that's the main reason I put them at third, is because I don't think Slovakia are going to finish third. So therefore, it just leaves Poland in third and Slovakia in fourth. Group F, the group of death. I think it's a really difficult one to predict. In terms of form, I definitely think that Germany are not in great form, but they have recently switched to a three at the back, which seems to have maybe made a difference to make up for their frailties in defence. They have got lots of attacking talent, but when I look at the squads of Portugal and France, I think Germany don't even come close. They've just got so much balance in both the teams of Portugal and France. They've got so much balance in each position. I think that's what's definitely going to allow them to finish either second or first. So really, but I don't think that Germany are as bad as Hungary. I think they're probably better than Hungary. So for that reason, I'm going to put them in third. I'm going to put Hungary last, and then the top two spots are really, really difficult to decide. I think, yeah, it's going to be a really, really difficult one, this. But I'm actually going to go with Portugal as number one and France as second, simply because I think that Portugal have got more well-rounded squad in each position. The only sides they are weak in is perhaps their full-backs at left back and right back. But in the centre-back spot, they've got an absolutely incredible centre-back in Ruben Dias. They've got good variety in their midfield, a lot of good variety, and they can definitely score goals. Even though they do tend to play defensive football, I just fancy them to finish top. France are an incredible squad as well. I mean, they're the favourites to win the tournament, but I just think that Portugal are gonna beat them in that spot. So moving on, predicting the four best third place teams. This is difficult, but I think what I'm going to base on is how difficult these teams are going to find it in their group and how many points I think they can get from their group. If they can get 4 points, I think they're probably going to finish as the best third place team. If they're getting 3 points, then they're probably not going to make it. So let's just have a quick look at each group. So for Turkey, do I think they can get 4 points? Well, I think they can beat Wales. And do I think they could draw or beat Italy? That's a difficult one. I do think they're capable of getting 4 points, so I'm going to select them. Russia, do I think they can draw or beat Belgium and Denmark? Not really. I think they'll lose to both of those teams. The only team they can beat is Finland, which means the maximum points I think they'll get is 3. So I'm not going to select them. North Macedonia. Okay, so I do think North Macedonia can beat Austria, and I do think they may be capable of causing an upset against Ukraine or Netherlands. That could just be blind optimism, but I do think they're capable of 4 points. So I am going to put them in the running for for one of the four spots. Croatia, do I think they can get 4 points? I definitely think they can. I mean, they could. Yeah, I definitely think they could definitely get 4 points. I mean, Scotland is a beatable game, and so is Czech. The reason I put Scotland in second is just simply because I think they will be very, very passionate and eager to go far in this tournament. That's not always a good predictor, I know, but I do think they have some good talent in this squad as well. But at the same time, I think that Croatia they're a good solid team, so they can turn up any day of the week. So I'm going to put Croatia there as well. This next one's really difficult, Poland and Germany. I think that Poland are a pretty average side. They've not got a great manager, and there's just so much talent in Germany's squad. Do I think that Germany can get 4 points? I think they're going to struggle to get 4 points, to be honest. But at the same time, so is Poland. So this is kind of a tie. So I'm going to go with Germany just because their squad is better, I think. So moving on to the knockout stages. Belgium versus Germany. I think that Belgium have a much better squad all round, so I'm going to go for Belgium. Italy versus Netherlands. I'm going for Italy. I think they're one of my favourites to win the tournament. I think they're going to do really well. And defence wins games. Netherlands do not have a good defence. Portugal versus Italy. I'm going for Portugal. I don't think there's going to be an upset there. I think that Portugal are one of the favourites to win the tournament. And they've just got so much star power in their team. Scotland versus Sweden. That's a really interesting one. I know what, I'm going to be biased here, slightly biased, and just go with Scotland. I think that Sweden are just such a solid side. They just tend to make the round of 16 or the quarterfinals every tournament. But I'm going to go with the Scots. They remind me a lot of Wales in the Euro 2016, so I think for that reason they could definitely do well. Spain versus North Macedonia. That's easily going to be Spain. I do like North Macedonia, and I do think they're a passionate team, but I just think Spain are going to quite comfortably beat them. England versus France. That's one hell of a game. I mean, if they're not playing France, then they'll be playing Portugal because those two teams are probably going to finish top of their group. So no matter what, England are probably going to have a really tough round of 16. You know what? I think that this is so difficult to decide, but I'm going to go with my head rather than my heart, and we're going to go with France. Ukraine versus Croatia. I think Ukraine will beat Croatia. They've got a good squad, a good manager. Switzerland versus Denmark. Pretty much two very similar sides, both very defensively solid. I just think up front, Denmark have slightly more firepower in Christian Eriksen. They've got a bit more of a star man there. And I just think that they're just such a solid side, Denmark. I think they could give pretty much any team a run for their money. So I'm going to go with Denmark. Moving upwards to Belgium versus Italy. I think this is going to be a really, really tough match. Two of my favourites in the whole tournament. I think that defence wins games, and Italy have better defensive record than Belgium. Now, I think a lot of this is going to depend on squad depth as you get into the later rounds, and I do think that Belgium have more squad depth up front perhaps, but overall Italy have better squad depth. I'm going to go with Italy. Portugal versus Scotland, I think that's going to be comfortably Portugal. As much as I like Scotland, I'm going to go with Portugal. Spain versus France, that's a really, really tough match. A really, really tough matchup. But you know what? I'm going to go... Yeah, this is a difficult one. I always want to go with the underdogs for some reason, but my head is saying France in this one, my heart's saying Spain. But I think that France are more well-rounded, and I've got to go with my head on this one, so I'm going to go with France. Ukraine versus Denmark. Yeah, this is a really odd matchup. I don't know too much about Ukraine enough to know how far they can go in the tournament. But I just think that they're a bit too unpredictable for the later stages. I think Denmark are just a bit more of a sure bet, so I'm going to go for Denmark in that case. Now moving on to the semi-finals. So, I mean, this in itself could quite easily be a final. There's been quite a few games where that could be the case. So Italy versus Portugal. I think that's such a difficult one to decide. You know, I'm actually going to come back to that. I'm going to move on to this one because I think it's a bit easier to decide. I think that France will beat Denmark. So we've got France in the final. Now it's just trying to decide Italy versus Portugal. That's so difficult. You know what? I'm going to go with Italy simply because I have a lot of faith in their manager. I think managers make a huge difference, and for some reason, I just have a lot of faith in Mancini. And now that we've got the Italy-France final, I'm going to go with Italy again. I just think, I don't know what it is about their team, but they just look like they know their identity really, really well in this tournament, and I think that makes a huge difference. Defense wins tournaments. I just have a feeling that the later stages of the knockout stages, I think they're going to turn up, and so I've gone with Italy for that reason. They're definitely not the favourites. I think France are the favourites, as well as England and Portugal, but I just have a feeling they'll do it this year. So I'm going for Italy as my winners. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please smash the like button and leave your feedback below. I am going to be bringing out two more videos, one rate my team and one on my final draft before the match starts tonight. So yeah, stay tuned for those and take care.